All right, good afternoon, Lauren. Thank you for being here today to discuss your pre-observation conference for your last lesson. Are you excited about that?
I am.
That's great. Okay, so it looks like you will be implementing this lesson next Tuesday, and this is a small group lesson. So we're going to be focusing on, it looks like some phonemic awareness. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me, well, first of all, I want to know how many students are going to be in the group, you think?
She said 4 or 5. It may depend because one of them is sick right now, so she
Okay.
could be out the next day.
Okay, that's a perfect group size. I wouldn't recommend
I
any
have to
bigger
change
really than
that,
that. Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Um, all right. So what feedback did Ms. Kearney provide you about your lesson plan?
So she looked over my lesson plan, and how I kind of started my lesson plan was a little rocky since this is my first small group lesson that I'm doing. And she helped me with that, and then she helped me with the activities, and she gave me the FCCR website to look for activities on there, and she helped me with the different instructional strategies.
Great. And I also saw that kind of leads us to question two. What changes have you made as a result of the feedback? I saw where she's provided some feedback in an email. What all did she have to say there?
She was just talking about the wrap up and to make sure it's not like an assessment, mainly like kind of having a ticket out the door, which I did change to like a posted note.
Mm-hmm.
She also told me to make sure to focus on like the first and initial phoneme. So I'm gonna change that in my lesson plan to having to do both instead of just the first.
The
And
first
then
and the ending phoneme, right?
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yes. And then she also told me to kind of over exaggerate when I do instructions because they are the lower level kids that I'm gonna be working with, kind of making sure that they get it like overly instead of like not enough because they do struggle a little bit.
Right. And phonemic awareness is like through your reading endorsement. Have you taken any of those classes with the reading endorsement?
I'm in
So,
one. I'm in one right
okay.
now.
So one of the things that when I went through that I learned was that phonemic awareness is like the most important thing to being able to read. Like the way that I remember it is someone said you can do phonemic awareness in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about listening. So it's not even necessarily like writing it or anything like that. It's what are you hearing? And a lot of times what we find is when there's a struggling reader, it's because they have phonemic awareness issues. And it could be even like a 12th grade student that they have phonemic awareness problems. I have a friend whose child is in kindergarten and he's trying to learn how to read and he's struggling. And I'm like, let's back it up to phonemic awareness. So, what you're teaching them is so important to them being able to get out of that kind of lower group. So, I don't know if you knew that, but it's very important. Okay, so let's talk about the data you've used in the development of the lesson.
Which one is that?
Number two, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Whoa.
Yeah, all of yours say number one. Describe the student data
Sorry.
in the development of the lesson. The second one, sorry.
Okay. So I used the data that the cooperating teacher gave me about the kids and like how they are the lower level. She also gave me like an example with one of the kids in the group, like how they did they did like an activity with phonemic awareness, and like she showed me how he did so I could use that to develop the lesson. So that really helped me with that.
Do you know the way that they're grouped? Do you know if that's based on like star data that they took in the class, like this group that she's pulled? Okay.
I don't
I
know.
would,
I know that she does like the different tiers.
right. So they're in her tier group. So I would
Yeah.
say for your lesson plan, on the actual lesson plan that you're writing down, make sure you put down that these are her, like probably her tier 3 students or tier 2 students. Because what that means is they're receiving like interventions each day to try to help them reach proficiency. And I would also write down what you noted about that student because with our rubric that we use for your lesson plan, we want to know about the students in your classroom and why they were chosen for this lesson. and what kind of strategies like you're using for them. So when we ask for the like the misconceptions that they have, you already know something about that and you just didn't even tell me. So that was great. So put that on there. Like, you know about one of the kids and what he is struggling with, or she.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. All right, let me know when you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, I'm moving on to the third box about the content. We've kind of already discussed this, but if you'll briefly review the content and how you've prepared for the content.
So the content will be the initial and ending phoneme. And I watched a video on initial phonemes, like how to identify that. So now I'll go back and watch a video or get some research on the ending phoneme.
Okay.
I also practice so far with a friend sometimes because I'll have her. Thank you. So she kind of helps me and like points out some of the problems with my lesson plan, and then I'll go back and fix those.
I'm really proud of you for that, because that's been one of our action plan goals and you've been doing a great job working towards that. I did see that in one of the definitions for the vocabulary words, you had the word manipulate. I think it was for phonemic awareness, the definition. Okay. And I just wanted, that is like the definition of it, but you may want to think of some ways to describe manipulate besides using that word. Does that make sense? Okay. Just for them.
Okay, I will change that.
No, it was the correct word. I'm just saying.
Do you just want me to put like a, I don't want to say lower level, but like a more friendly language for them to understand the definition?
If you're going to teach them the definition, and then they're going to need to know it in the terms that they can understand it. So I think it's great that you put down like a definition for yourself, but you might even put in parentheses kind of what you're going to tell them, so that, you know, that you have a way to explain it to them, because it's important. And it may even be that you use the word manipulate, but you tell them what that word means, you know. So I think it's great that you're using higher order words. I just didn't want you to get there and then not know how to explain it. So yeah. Okay. All right. I'm moving on to the next box about the key concepts that you and your cooperating teacher expect the students to learn from the lesson. Can you tell me what those are?
So me and the cooperating teacher, we want them to understand how to identify the initial and ending phoneme. And then she said not to have them identify the letters, because she doesn't want, because the phoneme isn't letters. She mainly wants the sound.
Yep.
So
the letter would be more like phonics. And remember, phonemic awareness can be done in the dark. It's all hearing. So exactly. And they probably are going to get tricked up on that. They're going to want to say B, and you're going to have to ask them, you know, what the sound is. But that's really good. Okay. All right, I'm moving on to the next box, talking about the essential and supporting grade level standards addressed in your lesson plan. And we kind of briefly touched on this before we started recording. How are you integrating standards from other subject areas? This is a tough one.
So how we talked about, I'll have to go back obviously and find one for spelling and writing, but that is the same subject. So maybe going back into first grade, because it is a second grade class, and trying to find a different standard for them, hopefully. There
may be, and we can look at it when we're done, but there may be a phonemic awareness standard. I'm not sure if there are some with the second grade or not, but this is definitely reviewing previous grade level information, since it's lower level. So we'll find second grade standards. You want to have second grade standards on there. But there may be something that applies because they maybe missed something from a previous year. So, okay. All right, let's look at, all right. How has your coursework at Florida Southern helped you in the development of the lesson?
So I'm in my how to teach language arts in elementary school class right now. And the first unit that we covered was phonemic awareness. So definitely, you know, what that is now.
Great.
And what phonemes are and how to teach them in an effective way.
That's awesome. And you also said you are first reading endorsement. Is that right? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So this kind of has to do with what we talked about a minute ago with the word manipulate. But how will you verbalize the objective of the lesson in student-friendly language and at the appropriate level of rigor?
Because the vocabulary is a little too high. I'll be giving them the definitions because I'm gonna put them on little posters, but definitely having that change of word so they will understand, because manipulate can be a big word for them. So making it easier, and then putting like the learning targets, making sure I'm stating it through the activity before and after, and definitely with the wrap up and the beginning of the before we even start.
I did notice that you had a wrap up in there where they were reviewing that, and you did a great job of that last week. It may even be something where if you're teaching them the vocabulary, like I'm just thinking out loud, for like the initial phoneme, you have them make like first, it's number one, it's the first sound. And then for the ending one, it's like the end, and they close the book or something like that. I'm just making, nobody told me this, I'm just making it up, but you can, what?
That's good.
Yeah. But it could be something like that that makes it where they're engaged, they're doing it, make sure they're all doing it so they understand what it is that you're asking them to do. Okay. I'm still on this one, the same section here. When we have the prior knowledge, what prior knowledge do students need to have before they begin this lesson?
I would say an I don't want to say understanding, but kind of like how you said, like phonemic awareness is kind of built into first grade because they are learning how to read, definitely, and they know how to read the words. So reading words, I guess.
Yeah, I would think they would need to know their alphabet sounds, right? Because if they don't know the alphabet sounds, then they're not going to be able to identify them. Like if they don't know that B means, B is buh, then when you see the word bat, you're not going to be able to say what the initial sound is. Okay. And then talk to me about the guided practice. What is your goal of the guided practice of the lesson? What do you want them to be able to do?
I'll be having the students, like, they'll get a little card and it has a picture. So they have to know what the picture represents. Like if they have a shark on their card, it'll be shark. And then hoping that they can effectively say the word, that they'll be able to pull out like the SH in the beginning and the K at the end to identify the initial and ending phoneme.
Okay. And this is totally off topic, but I've seen it before and used this myself where I had like a snake, like a little, like a toy snake. And I'm like, this is Stretchy the snake. And he is going to help us. We're going to stretch out the sounds that we hear in the word, right? So for shark, we've got shark. What do you hear at the beginning of shark? And then they can do it. So sometimes when you really kind of stretch it out for them, I don't know, that might be something that you can do as well. Let's talk about your wrap up. What is your objective of the wrap up? What do you want them to do there?
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
Because I just thought about this.
Okay.
Because I have them writing a word on the